So for more insight on this story, we now welcome Dr. Lahita, the director at the Institute for Autoimmune and Rheumatic Diseases at St. Joseph's Health and a professor at New York Medical College. And he joins us live from New Jersey. Thank you so much for your time on this day.
Thank you.
So experts are trying to get to the bottom of this very worrying problem. What more is known about the Johnson & Johnson and Astrazeneca vaccines and their links to this blood clotting disorder, even if it is in a small number of recipients? What can you tell us?
It's a very unusual disorder, and I'll tell you why. Both of these vaccines are what we call viral vector vaccines. And you might remember that the Astrazeneca vaccine was entered into the human body using an adenovirus, a harmless virus derived from a chimpanzee, believe it or not. This virus, which was also used by J&J, carries the particles of the COVID-19 virus into the human and creates a benign infection of various cells of the immune system, causing immunity. So what has happened, apparently, is in very rare cases, there's a substance on a platelet. The platelets are those particles that are important for your blood clotting. There's a substance on the surface which is called platelet factor 4. Most doctors are familiar with this because when you give regular weight heparin to some patients, very rarely, they develop blood clots like this. Now, that's unusual because it's a blood thinner being given to people, which creates blood clots. Well, that's precisely what has happened with these vaccines. And that's why we've put a pause on these vaccines here in the United States until we get more data. The curious thing about this is you cannot give heparin as a blood thinner to somebody with these blood clots to make their blood clots go away, which is the natural course of events in most patients. That's because this is an effect, in fact, of heparin when it's given to people that don't have COVID and don't have this vaccine. So this vaccine has unique properties, and most scientists, including myself, believe it has something to do perhaps with the adenovirus carrier that brings the antigen or the foreign viral particles into your body.
And so help explain for us non-health experts why there isn't a similar problem at the moment with Pfizer and Moderna vaccines. What is the big difference here?
There's a big difference. The big difference is no innocuous virus is used to enter the particles of the COVID-19 into your body. What the Pfizer-BioNTech and the Moderna vaccines consist of is messenger RNA. It's a whole different ballgame. The messenger RNA is a fragment of the genome of the virus, the COVID-19, which is placed into a small nanoparticle, so small it cannot be seen with anything but an electron microscope. There are micrograms of this very small particle that are injected into your body, and the messenger RNA is taken up by the cells. The cells process the messenger RNA. None of it gets into the nucleus of the cell. It's all in the processing part of the cell called the cytoplasm. And then spike proteins are made, which stick up in the cell, making the immune system and the body think that it's been infected with COVID-19 when in fact it has not been. It has just been delivered a small fragment of the messenger RNA that is in the virus that tells the cells of our bodies, and I am one recipient of the Pfizer vaccine, that I have been infected when in fact I have not. So it creates perfect immunity, but it's a totally different mechanism.
So it will be interesting to see when the green light is given after this pause. I want to make a quick comparison between the United States and Israel. Here today, the mask mandate outdoors has been lifted. School classes have fully resumed. The vaccination rollout has been rapid. What are the lessons learned here? What did Israel do right? And how is the rollout in the U.S. going from where you are sitting right now? Briefly, please.
Well, this is a very interesting thing. We admire Israel because Israel did something that very few other countries did and made sure that there was mitigation, mask, washing your hands, wearing protective equipment, or keeping your distance until such time as a vast amount of the population. And I'm presuming that Israel has herd immunity at this time. And herd immunity means that there is a specific percentage of the population, roughly 70 to 80% of the population that are either infected or immunized, at which point herd immunity occurs, meaning that the virus has no vested interest in infecting anybody else, because the virus cannot gain foothold.
Well, it certainly is fascinating to see how the rollout is being administered around the world. Thank you so much for your insight, Dr. Bob Lahita, speaking to us live from New Jersey. We appreciate your insights. Be well.